Hi, welcome to Drumming Delirium. I'm your charismatic drum coach and I'm ready to expose the top 5 drum technique mistakes, and I'll show you how to fix them in just 1 minute. And if you believe that, we've got some additional work to do. Alright, so thanks for checking in, and all jokes aside, these 5 problems are really common amongst beginner drummers, and you can do something about some of them quite quickly actually. But there's, for some of them there's no quick fix. So the main focus of this video is not about necessarily finding the fix at this point. We can dive into technique, in some depth, and it can get a bit overwhelming. It's like drinking from the fire hose. But what we can do, the first step is to really become aware of these issues. So if I can share these 5 as being common, I see them all the time when I'm watching drummers playing. And just knowing what they are, having them on your radar, is really the purpose of this video, because then you can take a look at your own playing and you can say, is this something that I do in my playing? And being aware about how you move and the detail about how you play is really important as a drummer. So some drummers like to record themselves, some like to play in front of a mirror, because you can spot stuff that you wouldn't otherwise see, when you sat here playing. Alright, so the first one that we are going to look at, first common problem that I see, is drummers not realizing that different things that you play require different grips. So there's a bunch of grips on the drums, and I'm not talking necessarily about traditional grip versus match grip or equal grip as it's sometimes called. So what I'm referring to is the grip that we use when we want to play different things is going to have to change, because one grip, even if you're using a good grip or correct grip, won't work for everything you play. So let me give you an example of that. So one of the a good example is 16th notes, right? So if we're playing 16th note groove on the hi-hat, something with both hands, something like this. So we've got that movement. Let me just pop back in. It's easier to demonstrate this with match grip. So you can see I'm kind of moving, using the arms a little bit, moving from here. I'm using the wrists a little bit as well to keep that nice even flow. Now, if I want to insert some 30-second notes, I'm going to require a bounce stroke, right? So that's a bounce stroke. So in order to get that bounce, I'm moving the same way as I was when I was doing the 16th notes, but I'm looser here. So the pinch point on the stick is looser, and that allows the stick to actually bounce. So it's rebounding off the surface and bouncing. But I've got to relax the grip to do that. I've got to be loose. So if I want the 30-second notes, so it would go something like this. So the speed of the wrist is not changing. So one of the mistakes I see a lot of times is beginners not realizing that the grip has to be relaxed at that point. So what they'll try and do, if you don't relax the grip, they'll try and wrist the 30-second notes. So instead of keeping this all at the same speed, whether you're playing 16ths or 30 seconds, this movement, they'll speed up the wrist and go like this. And try and force it. And it won't work like that. Nobody's got that kind of speed with the wrist. And we don't want to either. We want it to sound smooth and relaxed. So you've got to change the pressure, which means changing the grip slightly. You might be moving these fingers away a little bit so that you've got less purchase on the stick, and that's deliberate. But make sure that you're not playing all the time like that, because if you do, you've got less purchase on the stick. You can hit the edge, you can lose your sticks. So it's really about changing and recognizing that the grip that you want to use is dictated by what it is you want to do with that thing. Your regular grip when you're playing rock or pop 8th notes, you need a lot of purchase on the stick. You don't want to be squeezing it, but you need purchase. Otherwise, you're going to be dropping your sticks every 5 seconds. But likewise, when you want doubles or you want to move faster, you've got to change that. So that's the first one. Second one, okay. the coat hanger. Now, I've seen some other drum videos that talk about this in much more depth, and they actually call it different things. I've heard of it called a stank arm. It's where drummers are playing like this, and they're, you know, got their arms way up, and as I say, I call it the coat hanger because it's like they've, you know, left the coat hanger in their shirt that morning, and it's all like all nice and stiff. So, and they have to play, you know, from here, and they're doing the funky chicken, and that's no good. So you don't want to play like that. See, a lot of drummers do that at the beginning, and what happens is it creates a lot of movement, which creates a lot of volume on the hi-hat, and the hi-hat becomes the loudest part of the drum set, and you end up with this, and your beat sounds crap, right? So what we want to do is drop that down by dropping the elbow down. So this is to do with positioning as well. If your hi-hats are too high, that's no good. And I've had students in the past that have said, well, what, you know, what does it matter? I'm playing the thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, you are playing the thing, but you're doing it for 5 minutes. If you are playing in a gig, you might be doing, you know, 3 1-hour sets or whatever. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of hits on the hi-hat. And what you don't want to be doing is be in this position, because then you're carrying the weight here, and you're going to get really sore. So not only is it not going to sound great, you're going to get sore, you might get injured. So it's about playing in an ergonomic way, and that changes when you look at how long you're going to be playing for. So that's why it's important. All right, stank arm, I like that. That was I saw a video of the drummer that I like to watch called Rob Brown, drum teacher, and that's one of that's where I heard that phrase, stank arm. He says it much better than me, and he's much funnier than I am as well. So you know, go and check him out. All right, the next one. This one is little dinosaur hands. Now this is my wife coined this phrase. So quick story, little dinosaur hands. So quick story. I took her to a gig years ago, and I remember watching the band, and I asked her what she thought, and she said, drummer was cool, but it looked a bit weird when he played. I was like, what do you mean weird? She says, well, it looked like he had little dinosaur hands or dinosaur arms. I was like, what? And I figured out what she was talking about is the drummer, what he was doing, instead of using this range of motion where you're using a bit of this movement and a bit of this movement and the wrist, and you're all kind of, when we play drums, we play everything in conjunction with each other, depending on, again, what we're playing. So we kind of move around. So you can see movement here, a little bit there and here. So, and what he was doing, he was playing with a locked elbow. Now, sometimes this happens. So if I'm teaching a drummer that's got stank arm going on, or, you know, the coat hanger, and I mention it to them, sometimes they'll come back the next week and they've been working on it, and they've got the opposite problem. So they've locked this in here, and then everything's from the wrist. So we're getting this kind of thing where we've got an overactive wrist. So the wrist is compensating for being locked in at that joint, which is also not a very ergonomic way to play. Because if you most of the drumming is from the wrist, right? Most of the stuff we do is from the wrist, but we use our arms to give us some additional momentum and flow. We also use the arms as a vehicle to get where we want to go on the drums, and that's an important thing to remember. So if I'm playing fours around the drums, the arms are extending out to where I want to be, and that really helps me out when I'm going fast, because I can kind of make this circular motion with my arms and pivot a little bit from the hip, so I could do that kind of thing. Now I can't do that if I'm locked in at the wrist, because I've got to lean forward to get the thing happening, which is no good. So we don't want the don't want a little T-Rex happening. No. All right, and I apologise if I sound like I'm making fun of drummers that play like this. I mean, it is a bit light-hearted, but I think it's healthy to observe ourselves and our playing. And, you know, I've got quirks that all the time when I'm drumming. I watch myself, you know, I'm making these videos and I go, oh man, it just looks so weird. The one that I get a lot is that, you know, oh, you look really angry when you're playing the drums, or you look bored. I've had that one a lot. And that's not good as a professional drummer, because it's like, it is showbiz, you know. We want to look like we're enjoying it and stuff. And I am enjoying it, but That's just my face. Yeah, I've got a facial problem. All right, so next one is moving too much. It's like an uber aggressive movement when we play the drums, and we're playing from arms all the time, right? Stick heights, and then you want to go faster. We start doing the Duracell bunny and getting all crazy with it. We don't want the Duracell bunny. What we want to do is we want to drop it down, and the faster we play, the smaller movements that we're going to make on the drums. So that's really important to think about stick heights when we're playing. So that directly affects speed. Yes, we need to think about volume as well, because it directly affects volume. And so then, you know, what if you're playing a Blink 182 song and it's really loud and it's really fast, and, you know, you're going to burn some calories. But generally, it's about playing, for me, efficiently and ergonomically, so that I can do it for longer. I don't get injured. I don't have to be an athlete to do it and to move fast. So everything kind of condenses down depending on what I'm playing. So I really lean on technique as a drummer. So last one. This is super common, and it doesn't really feel like it's related to technique, but it's kind of in the same ballpark. And it's not adjusting the drums in a way that serves you to play for your particular size and shape and stuff like that. So like I said earlier with the stank arm, your hi-hat could be too high, or your ride cymbal's too high, or, you know, the drums have got the Mickey Mouse toms where they're facing each other, so you can't easily move around the drums because you've got too much of a reach, or one's at a dodgy angle, so you're doing this, you know, doing a drunken sailor or whatever. No good. So think about that, and you'd be amazed how many drum students come in for a lesson and they don't adjust the heights, they don't change the seat, they don't change anything, and it's weird to me to sit and watch them struggle. Now initially I thought it was a politeness thing, you know, drummers don't like to mess with other drummers' gear, but I always explain it's teaching kit. You know, the guy that was in before you is 6'7" and you're 5'1", like, you might want to adjust it, and you can. The first thing you do, you get in somebody else's car, you know, you adjust the seat, just the mirrors, you get where you're comfortable. Absolute same deal. The only caveat to that, I would say, is if you're on a gig and you're sharing a gig with a bunch of drummers, etiquette would dictate that you know, if there's 5 bands on, you're all using one guy's kit, do speak to them and say, look, can I make some adjustments, so you don't turn into the crazy gear adjuster, because nobody likes the crazy gear adjuster who starts, you know, doing really weird things, moving memory locks on stands and all that. So don't do that. That's not nice. All right, well, I hope you got something out of this lesson. A lot of talking, a lot of discussion. It's one of those lessons, and like I say, these are things to have on your radar so that you can analyze your own playing. You might spot something that relates to what you do as a player or what you see, and you might not, and if you don't, that's fine too. So in subsequent lessons, I would like to drill down into technique a little bit more, because I think it's a really important part of drumming, and something that when you get it down, you focus on it, everything just gets easier. So I want to do some specific lessons on technique. I've not decided what they are yet, or what they're going to look like. Probably things that I find in my own teaching, to be honest. But if you've got any ideas or anything you need a hand with, pop it in the comments. I'm really happy to make some content based on what you guys want to see. So do reach out, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. The more subscriptions that we get, the more I know people are watching, the more it makes me feel like it's worth investing the time to share this stuff with you guys. All right, so I will see you next time, and thanks very much.